Welcome to Todd and Eve's show, where I talk to interesting people and learn out loud for the benefit of myself and the listening public, sometimes about really whatever random academic topic I'm interested in, other times about heavy metal music. In this case, this is an episode with Kayhan Vaziri from the band Yautja, which is putting out an excellent new record this week when this podcast comes out. So I encourage everyone to check it out. It's called The Lurch. We'll put links in the show notes and all that. But I first met Kayhan, I think in 2010, probably, on a Weekend Nachos tour of the Southeast. And we discuss his band Legion, which actually played on a few of those shows. And, you know, this conversation is mostly about nerdy interests, about writing uncomfortable dissonant riffs with strange time signatures, which is one of Yautja's specialties and makes the record fantastic. And we have a little bit of a detour into some cultural commentary on handling the COVID-19 pandemic in a convenience store. So Kayhan has some interesting stories about that. So check out this episode with Kayhan Vaziri and pick up the new Yautja record when it comes out in May. Yeah, so I do think it's actually funny that your band was named Legion, because I actually have a coaching company named Legion.
Oh, nice.
Legion Strength and Conditioning. And cool. So I guess I'm curious, did you name that band after the Deicide album?
So no, I was familiar with Deicide at the time, in high school. Wasn't like super knowledgeable about them and their albums. The band was actually named after an Integrity lyric. Your name is Legion, I think is what it is. Was it Tempest? It might be the song Tempest. But yeah, it was named after like an Integrity lyric, but that lyric was based off of it's like a biblical reference, I guess. Right. Like Legion is like this a grouping of like demons or like evil spirits, I guess. Very cool to high school kids at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I definitely, when we were trying to name our coaching company, I was like scanning album titles and stuff, and I was like, yeah, Legion.
You're like, this relates to what I'm into, but also is not like gonna turn your average person away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Legion is the name of the like pro-am soccer team here in Birmingham. And it's always funny to see like their stickers and shit all over the place.
There you go. So free promo for your partially defunct
high
school band.
Exactly.
Love it. That's excellent.
Bumper stickers and magnets.
Every band needs merch, right?
For sure.
You can just kind of appropriate the logo and turn it into one of those sort of like what was the big one? Like Home Despot. I remember all these shirts were a thing for a while where just like take corporate logos and turn them into like edgy things.
Yeah, totally. Whatever. Like sticker machines at the bowling alley.
Yeah.
Like I actually ordered a pack of those stickers off that site Wish.
What is that?
It's like the most bootleg, like cheap, like hilarious like commerce site. Like you can order like 100 pack of band stickers for $5 and you'll get like a pack of stickers that has like everything from like Deftones to like Monster Magnet to Smashing Pumpkins, and then like there will be like random ones that aren't even band stickers in there that just say like rock on or hell yeah. But I would definitely recommend checking out wish.com if you're trying to order some bootleg 90s stickers packs.
Wait, hold on. So is this just it's a grab bag? You like don't know what you're gonna get? It's just
pretty
like
much, yeah.
Okay.
Like there's stuff on there that's like, oh, I'm actually looking for this product and I'm gonna order this, and then the thing that shows up is like not that product at all. So it's not great for if you're actually trying to buy something that you need, but if you're trying to like spend $5 on some random shit, it's a great wormhole to dive into.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like you gotta, sometimes you got to go in. It's like ordering at a restaurant. You're like, sometimes you got to say, okay, you know what? I want the old favorite. I know exactly what I'm ordering this time. Other times you got to just take a chance. Just guess it. Just guess at something and see what you get.
I'm a fan of stepping out in that regard.
Yeah, sometimes you just find some. You got to find some new stickers to put on your,
exactly.
your guitar case or whatever.
This is all during like prime pandemic times too, where I was just like, I'm stuck in the house and I'm just gonna order some dumb shit and entertain myself.
So what is the actual best one you got?
I'm trying to think of the coolest like band sticker that might have been in there. It's probably like Machine Head or something like that, but like the older like what is it? Burn My Eyes? Is that like the first album?
Yeah, I think so. Is that their actual first record? I don't know, but I mean,
it might be. I mean, that's the only one I would.
One of the good ones. Quote unquote. Yeah,
the one I'll jam occasionally.
Yeah. What about slogans? Did you get any good, sassy, aggressive slogans?
I'm trying to think of like the Home Despot thing reminded me of. I just can't think of anything good, like a good example. But yeah, like mall kiosk T-shirt. Type shit,
Yeah, like I do whatever the voices in my head tell me.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, keep staring, I'll do a trick.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. The white text on a black T-shirt type shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the things that is cool about being involved in extreme music is that normal people probably think that you actually are into all that stuff, right? That it's just kind of this like general, like, okay, you kind of like wear some weird band shirts and you like the music that's angry. So just all of that stuff that's a little bit, off kilter, off the beaten path. Like, you're probably into all of that.
Yeah. It's like, no.
And I am. They're right. Yeah, I have those shirts.
For the most part. Yeah. No, I mean, on that subject, like, a totally, uninitiated normie like view of like, say I have a coworker somewhere and I'm like wearing band shirts or metal shirts. I'm always curious, like, does this person think I'm like a complete, like, off the rails weirdo, or like, do they have any notion that I could just be a completely normal person but be into like extreme music and shit? I always wonder, like, they're like, dude, I hear the stuff you listen to, man. Like, you're into some pretty wild stuff, right? I'm like, nah, not really. Just like pretty wacky music. But I just work and, like, play video games and work out sometimes. That's it.
Well, I mean, I think that it's in general, most people probably don't have a framework for what it's like to be really into something. It's
Sure.
like you have a handful of interests that you kind of stumble into. And so people who do sort of like go deeper and then get immersed in some sort of subculture just have like a totally different lens on the world, whether or not they're into different subcultures, I suppose. Right.
Oh,
so
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah. If you're not into a subculture, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, you probably like your thing the same way that I like the TV shows that I like or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. I feel like I'm painting with pretty broad strokes. But
yeah. I mean, it's like, someone who's like say someone's obsessed with like Doctor Who, the TV show, it's like, their fandom is not going to go as deep as someone who is into like hardcore or punk or metal, because you can frequently go see that stuff live and then like be immersed in a community of other people who are into that stuff. But like, if you're into like a nerdy TV show, you might go to like a convention a couple times a year, or like be on a message board or something like that. It is pretty funny to think about, like, how, like, especially like DIY music and stuff, how the depth of the involvement is like so built into that, and easy to access too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do actually think that people who are probably really into, I mean, you use Doctor Who as an example, right? That they're probably not just only into Doctor Who though, right? I mean, they're probably into like assorted sci-fi, books or weird TV shows or movies or whatever. So you can kind of get plugged into, like a sci-fi realm.
Sure.
Go deep on that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, are you into Doctor Who?
I actually am not. Not not because I don't enjoy it, but it's never appealed to me enough to like dive in and be like, okay, I'm going to start Doctor Who from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely into like nerdy shit and sci-fi stuff, but that's not really my flavor.
Yeah, I do remember because I was really into fantasy novels growing up,
Sure.
and so I think that my parents kind of were like, "Oh, okay, cool. You like this stuff. You should also maybe consider some of this more like sci-fi stuff," which I never totally got into. But they would get me like DVDs or whatever from the library
Oh, nice.
of all those TV shows. So I do remember watching a bunch of it, but I don't remember actually like getting into it the way that I was into whatever horrible dragon novel.
What's his name? Like, is it Robert Jordan? Is he one of like the fantasy
Yes,
novel dudes? Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
was that was one of them.
Hell
Just
yeah.
those 900-page books,
Yeah.
and just sit there and just read them all day.
Hell yeah.
Which actually, I reread some of those. So one of my favorites was David Eddings,
Okay.
which I don't even remember what the series were called or whatever, but I just loved him so much. And I actually reread at least part of one of those as an adult. It was atrocious. It was so bad. You couldn't do it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like there's got to be I mean, there's so many people writing stuff like that, and I'm sure some are like have cool content and some are good writers and then some hopefully like meet in the middle, but I imagine some of it's pretty difficult to get through, especially as an adult.
Yeah, because some of it holds up, right? I mean, Lord of the Rings completely holds up. Um, the George Martin stuff I think is actually pretty good, but a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that I loved is it's very difficult.
Oh yeah. I mean, I am I'm huge on buying like especially like the smaller like old school paperback novels based solely off of like the title and artwork. So,
Mhm.
I've got the books that I read and then I've just got a pretty large collection of like ridiculous horror and sci-fi and fantasy shit that I just bought because it was like, printed in 1985 and has amazing cover art. And I'll every once in a while I'll like crack one open and try to read it and I'm like, this is fucking awful, man. Like who actually reads and enjoys this? I have like
So,
I'll have like the book version of like Dark Man or like there's this not like I'm looking at right like there was like a late 90s movie called Virus uh with Jamie Lee Curtis, I think. Yeah, I think she's in that. Um Sick movie, sick special effects, but the book version of that is probably fucking terrible.
well, so was the movie based on the book, or was the book based on the
No,
movie?
it's the book like when like a movie will come out, they'll make like the paperback novel version of it and it's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
But
It's not going to
I
be good.
highly recommend Virus. Probably came out in like 1998 or something like that.
How does it compare to the COVID-19 pandemic?
It's much better.
Okay.
I yeah, don't recommend that. I recommend the movie for sure.
Well, so
This
it sounds like you're also sort of going that explore exploit trade off with like the old school record store mentality of just walking in and looking for some cool cover art and just buying stuff you know
Oh
nothing
yeah,
about.
oh yeah, absolutely. I
Anything good with that? Any good unexpected gems?
not I don't know, man. Not really. I feel like I did that when I was like in high school. Like I was, yeah, I worked at Subway pretty much my freshman year of high school till I graduated, and I spent, I would say, like 80% of the money I made on records then, like mostly like hardcore stuff. But I would also just like go to a thrift store and buy stuff that looked cool. Most of it was not good music. Yeah, that judging books or records by their covers does not necessarily pay off, even if the cover is cool.
Totally. And so were you into, when did you start to get into like hardcore and punk? Was that in high school for you or what?
Yeah, it was like, like eighth grade, ninth grade.
Sure.
Yeah, I was always into like, starting in like middle school. Yeah, like listening to radio and watching MTV and shit. I remember like going to my aunt's house who had super nice satellite TV, and she had MTV X, which was like MTV Extreme. So they
Oh
would play
no.
like, metal and shit like that. And I got into a bunch of stuff that way. And then, of course, with like the internet and like file sharing shit, my older brother was always downloading stuff. Um, and then I guess I was 14 or 15, my freshman year of high school. I like became friends with some older kids who could drive, and we would just like go to the website of the DIY venue here, and we would just go to like any show. Like we might have checked out the bands if they had like a pure volume website or MySpace or
Yeah, for
whatever,
sure.
but like it was really funny to think about now, just like, hey, there's a show this Friday night. I don't know anything about it, but there's a show at this venue, so let's just go. And that kind of led to a lot of stuff too, like just discovering bands and seeing everything across the spectrum of heavy music or extreme music, I guess. Some terrible, some good.
Yeah, so there was enough of a scene that there was just always stuff happening.
Yeah, sure.
It's just
yeah.
like, okay, cool, I can just go to this whenever I want to.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't a big scene, but it was something.
Well, I feel like there's also an optimal size for a scene too, right? Where it's like, if it's too small, there's obviously not enough stuff happening. But if it's too big, then there's too many choices and the scene itself kind of becomes disjointed. So
Exactly.
There's almost like an optimal middle ground where it's like, okay, there's enough people involved that stuff is happening, but it's not so big that it can splinter. So you can just go to this one spot where it's kind of like,
totally,
okay, here's where all the freaks go.
Yeah. And that's what I like about Birmingham. It's like, it's the biggest city in Alabama, but comparatively, that's not saying much, but it's a cool music scene like that. So like, yeah, like if it's a good band, like everyone's going to be at that show. Like the punk kids, the metal people, the weird garage rock kids, like everyone's going to be at the same show. And it also makes for like cool mixed bills too, like
Yeah.
if someone like say someone throws like a local benefit show, there's going to be like a heavy band and a punk band and like maybe someone doing electronic or like some hip hop or something. And yeah, it's a good size scene for sure.
Yeah, I actually prefer that kind of stuff almost, right? Where it's like, it's not just, okay, this is a metal show. This is a hardcore show.
Exactly.
You know, because I do think that there are, even though it sometimes can create conflict or irritation for people.
Yeah.
I find it preferable to be like, all right, yeah, like every kind of music is going to happen at this show.
Yeah.
So you're going to have all these different people forced to kind of cross pollinate.
Totally. And yeah, and that can only happen kind of in a smaller scene, like if you try to do that in a bigger city where there are a bunch of different like subsets and splintered scenes, and like, if you have a garage band play with like a death metal band, like there's a high potential for there to be like a fight at that show. You know what I mean? Like, totally. So yeah, it's cool. Birmingham scene is pretty rad. Yeah.
And also I think that, people, the incentive to do that, even in terms of not just preventing violence, but you're like, oh, I will get more people to come to this show if I have only this death metal lineup, or if I have only this hardcore lineup.
Oh yeah.
Because then you can actually try to pull everyone from that like splintered faction of the underground music scene. Whereas like a mixed bill, even though it seems like, oh, maybe you'll get some of everyone, like you probably won't, because you're competing with so much other stuff. So you have to lean into like, all right, this is a death metal show and we need to stack it with as many death metal bands as possible to get all the death metal people to come.
Totally.
Which, I mean, I get it, but it is something that I do think about, where it's like, okay, how can how can scenes incentivize that kind of like mixing, and like we've been talking about, more like weird stuff happening where it's like, okay, this isn't something you were going to experience anyway.
Oh, for
but
sure.
you're just going to take a chance and see what happens.
Yeah, and it's funny like that that kind of like translates into Yautja in a way, because like we've definitely been on tour, especially if it's like our own tour, like we're headlining or co-headlining, or like we take out a smaller band or something like that, and like we'll play a metal show, and like we'll confuse some of the, like, especially like older metalhead dudes. They're like, like, what the fuck is this? Like, I know this is like metal, but like it's weird. Or we'll play like a straight up punk show and like, be too metal for the punk people, or like play like a weird like mixed bill show. And yeah, it's funny like trying to fit in. I remember we played a show, I think it was like south side of Chicago one time, and dude, it was kind of weird. Like it kind of felt sketch in a way, like kind of felt like a weird like skinhead dive bar type place. And like nothing overtly sketchy, but just like, okay, like we're definitely like in someone's territory here. And
Sure.
it was a punk show, and we played, and like, a couple people dug us, but I was also like, man, we are not a punk enough band to be playing here right now. Like, like I feel like, everyone was fine, but I was like, I better like not say something polarizing here. Not that like
Things could go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could remember the name of that place. I mean, it was a fine show.
Yeah, I'm curious
cool.
what it was.
I'm trying to think. We played with this band. I think they were called In Defense. They were like
Sure.
a punk like thrash band, and we kind of jumped on the show. And then like getting in there and setting up, I'm like, man, this could go wrong. It didn't, but yeah. But I also kind of like being that band, like I kind of, there is something satisfying about not being able to be completely pinned down, and like, nothing against bands that are just like, okay, this band is like old school death metal, and like that's exactly what they do, and there's no questioning that. But yeah, it's kind of fun to be like, like, what the fuck is this band doing? Like, okay, this part sounds like it's like out of a Jesus Lizard song, and the next part sounds like it's like a Carcass part, and then this part is like more grindy power violence shit.
Yeah, totally. And I guess I'm curious with that. And I mean, I hesitate to call it like genre blending, because I do think that what you're doing, even though it does pull from multiple things, is sort of cohesive in a way that genre blending doesn't imply. But I guess I am curious, for you, sort of showing up in these different scenarios where it's like, all right, like we're doing our thing that may not fit in well with the other things that are going on. Is that something that is like purposeful, where it's like, okay, we want to not fit into a lane, or is it something that kind of comes just from putting together riffs and writing stuff and having a bunch of influences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely more of an organic thing. There's never been a time where we're like sitting in the practice space like, okay, guys, it's time to write the song that's like gonna combine this, and this. Let's do it. Yeah, it just comes more naturally, and yeah, it just comes from like putting together riffs, and then, hey, like this part's pretty straight up death metal sounding, but like if you play the drums, and like if the rhythm section is doing this, then it kind of has like this weird kind of like 90s noise rock vibe, but we're still playing the metal riff, I think it comes more naturally, and yeah, there's not a lot of setting out to be different intentionally. It just kind of happens, and I think that just comes from like our musical backgrounds and the stuff we all listen to. Yeah, it just kind of happens.
Yeah, I think that the sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but that like, okay, we don't belong in a specific spot is really interesting for bands, because sometimes it can be very positive, because it's like, okay, this doesn't conform to my expectations in a way that excites me and I'm into it. Whereas other times it can be a liability because people don't have an easy spot to put a band.
Sure.
So they're like, that was kind of cool, but I don't really know what it is. And so I'm not interested in pursuing that. Right. And not that you're necessarily like, oh, we need to make sure that we're writing songs that people can latch onto so that they buy our stuff. But it does seem like, you know, for Yautja that it has been positive where it's like, okay, this doesn't belong exactly, but in a way that's exciting for people.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
No, yeah. I mean, like, I definitely thrive on that. We thrive on that. Yeah, like we did a tour with it was Revocation, Exhumed, and this band Rivers of Nile, and like we were opening up, and it was cool to like be on this, you know, like those bands are all different, but they all fall in the pretty straightforward realm of metal, even though they're writing cool original shit. But it was fun to open that up and just like watch people kind of scratch their heads at times and just be like, what the fuck is this? You know, like I know these other bands, but this is metal. I know it's metal, but like I'm not really sure. And like, yeah, it goes both ways, you know, like I think, you know, like the majority of our fan base is people who are into heavy music and metal, but I think it does splinter off into people who like just like music, you know, like across the board, because they can hear little things in there and appreciate the shit we write. Has it shot us in the foot a couple of times? Like maybe, you know, like I feel like maybe if we had like a more traditional metal band name and like had less wacky parts in our songs that were like kind of head scratching, that, you know, maybe we would have had a different trajectory, but I don't think any of us are really worried about that.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. For me, it's interesting because I think that like I guess I probably originally was like, oh, okay, this kind of sounds like Voivod, and it kind of sounds like Formulas and Gateways era Morbid Angel.
Sure.
Right. So I sort of immediately like hooked in what you were doing with that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how much those are specific influences on your sound, but I kind of put it in that family when I first heard you guys.
Yeah. I mean, like Morbid Angel, absolutely. You know, like Shibby is like our guitar player is the main riff writer, and he's definitely a Morbid Angel fan. Like you can hear a lot of that, especially in the more straightforward like metal riffs, like a lot of that kind of like that like harmonic pick sweep thing that like that he likes to throw those in there. I feel like that's the thing that jumps out. People like, that's Morbid Angel. I like Voivod, but I don't think any of us. I don't really think the other dudes listen to them too much. But like, yeah, those are definitely good comparisons in the realm of metal for sure. But I just remember like first meeting Tyler and Shibby when I moved to Nashville, and like going over to Tyler's house for the first time and being like, this dude, like his collection of music and his knowledge is insane. Like, you know, both of his parents were in like the music industry in Nashville, and I think he's always been around music his entire life, but they were more into like country music, and he kind of just took the, you know, being entrenched in music his whole life, but then branching out into like all kinds of styles that were beyond his parents' interest. And I think that, like, you know, even Shibby growing up in the outskirts of Nashville, but still being around music his whole life, same thing.
So were Tyler's parents, were they musicians themselves, or were they
no I think his mom
A&R people or what have you?
Yeah, like his mom when she was younger was like a country pop musician that had some success in Australia. Actually, she's from Australia, but they moved to Nashville and had a publishing company. I actually interned for them at one point for a second. But it was very on the commercial side of things and like songwriting and publishing and pitching songs and stuff like that. But it's really, yeah, like Nashville's a funny city in that way. It's like every 5 kids you meet at a show, like one of their parents is involved in like either crazy engineering or studio stuff or publishing or management or something like that. So you've got all these kids who grew up around country or pop music that was very commercial, and then they're like trying to get into like the weirdest, grimiest DIY shit that they can get their hands on.
That's so funny.
Makes for a cool formula.
Yeah, totally. Well, I guess I'm curious too. I mean, it sounds like you have some experience in that music industry scene. A lot of people involved in the music industry, even on the most, streamlined, processed pop end of the spectrum, actually have like really diverse music interests. And I guess I'm curious if that also holds true in that sort of more, Nashville pop songwriting scenario as well.
I feel like it does for some people, but I don't know. I feel like because most of those people, like engineering people, musicians, yes, but the people who are involved in like publishing and management and all that stuff, I think because their brains are so wired for marketability.
Hits.
Yeah, exactly.
Hits.
Like, it's got to be a hit factory. That stuff kind of like blows past them. But I have met some people like we just did. This guy helped us do a music video, and he is like a session drummer. So he's drummed for like all kinds of crazy country and pop stuff. But his music, like, he's super into Yautja, he's super into all kinds of metal and extreme shit and weird shit. But like his job is being a session drummer for country and pop. It's like a lot of it is probably not super exciting for him, but that's just his job. He's like a solid drummer that people call in to do studio and session work.
Well, and I feel like if you're a session drummer like that, you just have to be so good and you have to be so versatile.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like you just get called in and it's like, all right, you got to do this right away without even knowing what it is.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you imagine that someone like that is constantly steeped in all kinds of different music and learning all kinds of different stuff.
Sure.
Because you just have to be able to do anything and everything at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like being like a live sound engineer. It's like you're going to hate like 90% of the music that you're mixing or doing live sound for, but like that's just the job, like it's a job.
Yeah, for sure. So you were in Nashville for how long?
Let's see. I moved there in 2010, and so Yautja had like actually started without me, but I think only played one show. And I moved to Nashville, and the original bass player, I moved in with him. Like, I moved in with these two guys who were like friends of friends, who were actually kind of strangers. And one of the roommates, he started the band with them, and he actually like quit the band like right when I moved there. He's like, "Hey, if you want to like play bass with the band here, like I just quit this band and like they need somebody." And I think I had met Tyler and Shibby very briefly before then, but it was definitely had that like cold call vibe of like showing up to the practice space for the first time and kind of just being like, this feels like a Craigslist type situation, but it definitely worked out. Like, we all gelled musically, and, we all enjoy each other's company and like the same shit. So it was very, very random connection there, but it worked out great. But yeah, I moved in 2010, and I finished school there and then stuck around afterwards because I was doing Yautja and other music stuff. And then I moved back to Birmingham in 2015.
Got it. What does the dynamic look like as far as songwriting and composing and all that, right? I mean, obviously technology is helpful, but I am curious, how you guys put stuff together with a remote situation.
Yeah, so like Shibby is definitely the main like riff writer in the band. And he will more or less like get half or three quarters of a song done, and then we'll get together and kind of flesh out the rest, write some bass parts. Like obviously Tyler's drum parts are very unique and strange in his own vibe.
Yeah.
I think Shibby has an idea of what he wants Tyler to do, but then when like Tyler actually starts to like flesh that out, it morphs into Tylerland. There have been a lot of really funny times of Shibby trying to like mouth a drum part, and Tyler's just like, I can't do that. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is that, a human drum beat you're mouthing right there? But as far as remote goes, like, most of this, the Lurch, like the new record, was written together. But since that was recorded, Tyler and Shibby have met up and demoed a couple things and sent them to me, and I've been able to like write some parts to that. So yeah, like, technology obviously super helpful, and Shibby has a super sick home recording setup in our practice space. I mean, he records a bunch of bands in there, so it makes it really easy to demo shit and send it over to me.
No, that all makes sense. So, yeah, I did want to ask just about the process of coming up with all the different things that are happening, right? Because I mean, there's the skeleton of the song, which includes few catchy riffs, some, like you're talking about before, some angular dissonance, maybe a few blast beat parts.
Sure.
Like, okay, cool. This is a good collection of riffs. Makes sense. But there's just also a lot happening. I mean, like you mentioned, there's Tyler, the drummer, just doing stuff that makes absolutely no sense at all. There's a lot of variations on the riffs where it's like, okay, like here's kind of how it goes, but this time it's a little different. This time it's a little different.
Yeah.
This time it's a little different. And, there's just a lot of stuff that is subtle, but seems very well thought out. And I kind of wanted to get your take on like, okay, how does that actually happen? How do you guys come up with all those variations?
Sure.
How do you figure out what the hell Tyler is going to play?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of it comes with just taking our time. We are a pretty slow to write band. Like a lot of people like doing press stuff with this new record. People are like, why has it been 6 years since your last release? And first of all, I'm like, well, it hasn't really been 6 years since our last release. Like we put out little things here and there, but we definitely take our time. And like, I think we're all perfectionists and like have OCD with writing stuff where like, if everyone's not 100% happy with it, then it's not going to go into its final form. And like talking about the variations on a riff and like a riff evolving in a song. Yeah, I think it's like a different version of like the same riff but slower, that you hear. It's like, oh man, like that riff's fucking sick, and then they slowed it down, and then they slowed it down again, and it just got so punishing. It's like a bizarro version of that. It's like, okay, let's play this riff, but like the bass and drums are gonna like go into a different time signature while the guitar riff stays the same, or like, we'll play this riff, but like now every time you play it, like the tail is going to be different, and then that tail will become the next riff, but then we'll put the previous riff as a tail of that one. It's a little bit of mad science type shit, but like we're definitely not like writing this down on a whiteboard or anything like that. Even though there was a little bit of that on this new record in the practice space, just to like keep track and remember stuff. It wasn't like we were doing equations. It was like, okay, like this is riff B1, and then it does riff B2, and then B1, and then B3, and then B2 again. But that was just for like, us remembering what the fuck is actually going on until we can get the song down.
Yeah, totally. Because I mean, I think the best bands are very capable of doing that kind of, like you said, mad scientist recombining in a way that is cohesive and flows, where it's not distracting, but that constant variation does provide just like little nuggets all the time. Where you're like, oh, that was a good transition. Oh, that was a little different.
For sure.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah. I mean, there's something like, if someone comes up with a cool riff, there is a little bit of magic there with like exploiting it without like running it into the ground, like and not just slowing it down. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's, like any great song is only like two or three good riffs and then variations on that and then connecting it all together. But yeah, when you throw like, Shibby's riffs and then like Tyler's drumming in the mix, shit can really just kind of go anywhere.
Yeah, and I think that the drumming in particular is something that does create a lot of those variations, like you mentioned, in a way that is very unique. That not many bands have.
Oh yeah, I mean,
have someone like Tyler where it's like, okay, like that fits over what he's playing, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
I am definitely like that person in the band. Like I am like the caveman thinker where I'm just like, the first couple of times they're like showing me something they came up with, I'm like, this doesn't make sense, guys. Like, this is cool, but like, can you tell me what's happening here? If you can't tell me what's happening here, then I don't know about this. So I feel like I'm the one who sometimes needs a little bit more convincing, because I'm like, okay, who's gonna do vocals over this? Like, it's impossible, And I've made jokes in the past where I'm like, dude, Tyler could just go on tour by himself and play drums and probably do okay, I'd
go.
Yeah, I would go watch him play. I mean, I've had the privilege of watching him play with other bands. Like, he's played with so many bands, but he's in this two-piece kind of like spazzy, like, I hate calling stuff mathcore or math rock or whatever. I don't know why I hate that term, but I guess that'd be a good way to describe it. It has like hella vibes, if you've ever listened to them.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But man, like, I remember watching that band the first couple of times and just standing like right next to him or right in front of them and just like having this stupid grin on my face. Like, what the fuck is this dude doing? Like, this is ridiculous. And yeah, he's definitely got his own style, and he's an incredible drummer. I really think.
What's that band called?
That band's called Narwhal with a G. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely check out some stuff from them. They've got some interesting stuff, and live is like, yeah, it's a special thing to witness.
I mean, Narwhal is a good name for such a band. It seems to me.
The name is fitting for sure.
Yeah. A strange creature.
Yeah. It's funny too.
Strange looking creature.
Yeah. It's a strange band. I've seen some stuff too where like people are talking about the two songs we put out from the record already, and they're like, why does he not like double kick? Like, why is he not using a double kick pedal? And like in Yautja, he does not use a double kick. He uses like the floor tom and does this like kind of double kick simulation thing. But he's also played in bands where he did use a double kick and did do like straightforward like death metal and black metal double kick shit. Like, he played in Mutilation Rites, which was like pretty wacky drumming, but like some of it is kind of straightforward double kick stuff. And there was this shorter lived black metal band from Nashville called Alron that he was in. That's fucking sick, man. I don't know if you've heard them, but
no.
It's ALRAUNE, and yeah, like double kicking that is like ridiculous. So he's not opposed to doing it, but I think that is something that, like, once again makes Yautja kind of unique, because like simulating the double kick, you're not really like mimicking it per se. You're creating a new sound with the way you're doing it, and then like, because he's using the floor tom to do that, he can throw in other little things that completely change the drum beat up.
No, I mean, I think that it fits. To me, it fits.
Yeah.
Right? It's
yeah, absolutely. Okay. It fits the band. Like, there have been times where I'm like, man, this part would sound sick with just like some straightforward double kick underneath it. But I think it all benefits from not having that, and gives it a more unique sound.
Yeah. I mean, because there probably are parts where, yeah, maybe just like a straightforward double kick roll would work well.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I mean, a lot of the stuff on the new record does have a lot of that kind of like weird tom feel.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I mean, like the title of Lurch, like everything feels like lurching.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh yeah, yeah, man. That's definitely like. I think the title is very fitting. Like that is from a lyric in one of the songs. The song's called "The Weight," but it does fit the overall musical and some of the lyrical aspects of the record for sure. And yeah, like that drumming kind of contributes to like the uneasiness and kind of unsettling. Like you're like, well, like I kind of like I can think of things that this part of this song. Uh, I've heard songs in the past that sound like this, but like this sounds stranger. Like this is a little more like off balance because of how the drums sound right here.
absolutely. It's yeah, there's a lot of off balance parts. There's a lot of parts that feel kind of like unresolved. And then when whatever the heavy riff does come back in and it is more straightforward, then it kind of resolves a lot of that just sort of like
Sure.
energy.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
please.
I've heard people refer to it as like kind of claustrophobic or like even anxiety inducing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take that.
We'll take that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Yeah.
perfect for every listening situation, but yeah, I'll take it. Maybe not like when an airplane is taking off or you're about to go scuba diving or something, but yeah.
But otherwise, if you want to feel bad,
Yeah.
got the record for you.
If you want to feel bad in a cool way, then check this shit out.
Well, and I think that kind of leads into one of the other questions that I had about, just the technicality of the band, because it clearly the stuff that's happening is difficult, but it's not like you're a tech band, quote unquote.
Sure. Yeah.
And I guess I'm just curious, like how you guys think about the odd time signatures, the strange arpeggios, the like you're mentioning before, like, oh, we're gonna play this riff, but we're just kind of like mess it up in a way that makes it sound strange, all in ways that are difficult but aren't necessarily like showing off or whatever.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like I would never want to be lumped in with like tech bands, like I don't know when did that come about? Like early mid 2000s kind of with like this is tech metal, dude. That's always like obviously talking, earlier we're talking about Morbid Angel, like that is a technical band for sure, but like I would never call Morbid Angel a tech metal band.
No.
It's just technical playing. Yeah, like I love, like, especially when I first started playing with Yautja, when we first started writing stuff, it was super fun to play with that band because, I was playing in bands that had some difficult parts or like even fast playing and like playing that required like consistency and accuracy and all that. But playing with Yautja was like, yo, this is challenging me, like this is hard to play. Like I have to practice this song to get it down to how we want it to sound. And yeah, like I was saying, like they would show me a part and I would just be like, this is cool, but like, how did you write this? Like, did you do this just to be like technical for technical's sake? Like just to fuck with people? Or like, was this an idea that came up? And mostly it's just something that comes naturally. And then once everyone gets together and starts to play it, they're like, oh, whoa, like, like, what if he keeps playing this, but me and Tyler stay on the rhythm of this part from before it? So yeah, I think it's hard to describe the band because people are like, what are they doing? Like, holy shit. Like, oh, they're like, I could never do that. Like, that's some tech shit. And it's like, no, like we just kind of like beat it into our head to where we could pull it off. And yeah, like it's fun to be, maybe that's like, that's like the death metal side of the band is like some of the technical playing and the riffs, and being technical without being a tech band, like I don't think we'll never have a tablature book being sold at the merch table. We might do maybe we'll do a playthrough video at some point just for fun. But yeah, I don't think we like harp on the skill or technicality of the band. It's just something that is necessary to make the music we want to make.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, I do think a playthrough video would be very interesting as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? I mean, just sort of understanding like, oh, okay, like those are the actual chord shapes that are being used.
Sure.
Like, all right, that kind of makes sense.
And
I'd watch it.
I think if I went, I mean, there are definitely weird bass parts on our songs and parts that like seem like they would fight with the drums or guitar, but that kind of fit perfectly. But I feel like the other two dudes go off the rails so much. Like, yeah, like I remember the first time I saw a video on YouTube of like a kid doing like a drum cover of one of our songs. I was pretty stoked on that. I think Tyler was very stoked.
Yeah.
So yeah, we probably will do a little playthrough video, even if it's just Tyler, just so like, you know, like 17-year-old kids can be like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, he's just using a drum kit, you know, like he's just using a regular drum kit, like the one I have in my room.
Totally. Well, I mean, I do actually think that to your point earlier, just about the, the clashing between the bass and the guitars, that's actually really interesting too. I mean, and that would be, I would love to see something on that as well, because most bands is just like, okay, yeah, the bass and the guitar do basically the same.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like,
and especially in extreme music, if it goes too far off, you know, just with the amount of stuff happening, it can just turn into mush.
Exactly.
You know, where like it sounds like nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is actually interesting too, and I would, I'd love to see like, oh, okay, that's why this part.
Sure.
Works.
Yeah. I mean, there have been times where like Shibby will be like, I think you could come up with something really cool for this part, and I'm like, yeah, I don't disagree, but like, because of what you guys are doing, if I don't do something a little bit more like laid back and in the pocket, then this is just going to sound like mush. Like it's going to like counter the cool shit that you guys are doing. And it you know, and vice versa too, you know, like if me and Tyler are doing some wacky rhythm shit, then like Shibby might do something more atmospheric or dissonant sounding on guitar. But yeah, it's fun. It makes writing songs fun too.
One of my favorite videos on the internet, I don't know if it's even still up. I'll have to see if I can find it and put it in the show notes. Is of it was like I don't know, like guitar.com or like something like that, of Gorguts back in the day, and it was the bass player talking about what he was playing on a bunch of the songs on Obscura, and it was just like so fucking cool.
Oh, dude, yes.
Have you ever seen that?
I think I feel like I saw that in the past like 6 months or so.
Excellent.
It's so funny because it looks like a video that would be on the internet today, but it looks like it's, you know, from the time, and like some of the quality is like kind of wacky if it's the video I'm thinking of. But yeah, that video
totally
is fucking sick, and yeah, I totally back that. And same thing, like,
and you just
like bands that like Gorguts is not a tech band, but they are a technical metal band. So like watching those dudes dissect and play some of those riffs is pretty amazing.
Yeah, because it's so abrasive and so difficult, and it's also, you know, even if someone is pretty good at figuring out songs, like that, some of that stuff is impossible to figure out. It's just like there's so much happening.
Oh yeah,
and they're doing such like unconventional stuff, and you can't parse it out. And so actually seeing what they're doing, you're like, oh
yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah, it makes like it makes the technical side of playing stuff like that make sense, to where otherwise it'd be like, I don't know how they're doing. Like, what are they do? Like, is that from a pedal, or is that like from the way he's playing, or like, you know what? Yeah, it's cool to see bands like that break shit down. So yeah, maybe you've inspired me to light the fire of doing the playthrough video here.
I think you should absolutely do it.
If there's a way to make it not the least amount of serious and nerdy as possible while still showing people what the fuck we're doing.
I mean, it doesn't even need to be anything like special, right? I mean, just like play the song.
Yeah.
You could even, you know, just play it without talking about it. Or if there is a part that's specifically interesting or that people have questions about, you could be like, okay, like this is what's actually happening.
Sure.
This is why we did it this way. Yeah, do it.
Hell yeah.
Which song do you think has the best playthrough potential?
I think we talked about doing the first song we shared from the new record, Tethered.
Is that the slow one or the fast one?
It's the faster one. It's got a lot of the slideys. It's like it's got more of like a punk vibe to it. There is a punk beat in the song at one point.
Sure. Yeah.
I would almost be more nervous to do one of the hype. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole point of it, though, is doing a weirder, more complicated song that has more nuance in there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Pick the one with like the weirdest stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Because then that's what people want to see.
Pull back the curtain more.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I know how to play a D beat and like a power chord punk part. Yeah. Like, I don't need to see that.
Yeah,
I want to see some weird Jesus Lizard riff. What are you
doing?
For
sure. Yeah, there's a song.
Make it happen.
There's a song called "Wired Depths" on the new record, and that would probably be a good one. There's some pretty wacky shit in there, and there's like kind of a little bit of everything. There's like blasts and punk beats and weird mid-pace, off-time stuff. I feel like that song is on the new record, at least. It's like the most. It's the best amalgamation of like all kinds of music in one song, and still, without being like, okay, this sounds like a paint by numbers of like they wrote down. All right, this is gonna have like a noise rock part. Then we do death metal. Then we do grind. Then back to punk. But yeah, that's a pretty wacky one.
Which track is that?
It's called Wired Depths.
No, which number is it?
I think it's. That's a good question. I want to say 4th or 5th track on the record.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to go back and listen because I got a promo copy of the record and listened.
It's the third song. It's the third track on Lurch. Yeah.
Okay. I think I might know which one it is then.
It starts off with like a really like kind of disjointed, very not metal part. Bass and drums are doing some weird shit.
Yeah. It's good. Weird stuff is good.
Yes.
So what's the plan now? I mean, you have a record coming out. A pandemic is, at least seeming to wind down in the United States. Maybe not elsewhere in the world.
Sure.
What's the deal?
Yeah, it's really weird that you mentioned like elsewhere in the world because I feel like at first when I first started to see like touring and festival plans that most of it was for Europe, and I was like, that seems sketchier to me than just driving around here in a way, like because you have to fly and you're like crossing multiple borders and like because there's so many smaller countries, like everyone's regulations and vaccination and all that protocol is going to be different. But yeah, like it seems like early fall is when bands are starting to tour and play shows. So we're like kind of scheming something for October and then a shorter-ish thing end of November, December. But yeah, man, I really don't know. Like, feel like the band is all kind of on the same page of like, yeah, like we can plan something, but there's really no fucking telling what's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months.
Sure.
And like obviously, like bands on our level, like we're not making money, and we're definitely not, as cliche as it sounds, doing this to make money, but we are all adults that have to survive in this fucking hellscape. So like going on tour and playing shows and like selling records and merch on tour is like the only way bands on our level really make money in any way. So it is strange to have like the biggest release that this band has ever had come out and then not be able to tour for like 5 or 6 months after that. And that even like crossed our minds when we were planning out the release for this record. Because we recorded this record at the end of January 2020, at the end of January last year. And so like in our heads, you know, everyone's 2020 was different than they thought it would be. But in our heads, it was like, okay, record's going to be done at the end of January, hopefully come out like late spring, early summer, and then we'll just fucking tour hard for the rest of the year. And after that, but everything slowed down once the pandemic started. Like, you know, took our time with mixing and mastering. We weren't on Relapse when we finished the record, like we finished recording it. So that process was slower, like talking with them, artwork and everything kind of slowed down. And I think for maybe a week or so there, we were like, what should we do with this? Like, should we sit on this for a little bit until things calm down and then put it out so we can tour and stuff? But I think we just wanted to get the music out there. Like, you know, once a band releases something that's new to listeners, it's already super old to the band. So like,
Yeah.
I don't think we wanted to sit on this until like the fall of this year or like early next year, because then we'd be like, well, fuck, we already have like 4 or 5 new songs written and done, but we have to like go play this record that's old as fuck to us now.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I guess the plan is to hopefully do something this fall, if shit does stay on a decent trajectory. My outlook on the whole pandemic and vaccinations and mask wearing is like pretty grim when I really think about it. But you know, I do have hopes that we can play some shows and do some smaller touring later this year.
Yeah, it seems plausible.
Yeah. I mean, we're the band is
enough to try.
The band is vaccinated. You know, obviously living in the South, like people's outlooks on all that shit is very fucking whack for the most part. Like, I think Alabama is like the second lowest state with vaccination numbers. And
you beat one of the Dakotas?
I think we beat like either a Dakota or like Mississippi or something like that. Right. But yeah, some of I hear some pretty hot takes about that shit down here. It's pretty disheartening, but you know, someone who's been like touring and traveling since I was 17, 18, I understand that there are people like that fucking everywhere. It just has a different lens down here.
Sure. I mean, it's, you know, the I don't know what the right word is, but the like beliefs of people in different areas, you know, it kind of like they spread amongst each other, and you kind of get these like pockets of different opinions, and you know, sometimes your opinion doesn't fit in with the people around.
Oh yeah,
you.
Absolutely.
Probably have some experience.
Oh
with
yeah.
that.
I mean, my day job is my dad and my uncle own like a corner market convenience store, beer and wine store. So like, you know, I've been working there during all of this shit, and like sometimes you encounter people who are just like, you know, they especially during the peak pandemic shit, like where numbers were terrible. You're like, hey man, you really have to wear a mask in the store. And like some people, like I've had people who like just from that, and I learned quickly to be like very democratic and chill about letting someone know that they had to wear a mask in the store. Even when I approached it super easily and like treaded lightly, there were people who wanted to fight, like just from that, you know. Like I had this one dude, like I was in a walk-in cooler stocking some drinks, and I can see him through the thing, and he looks like your classic like biker dude, patriot guy, and so not wearing a mask. You know, this isn't like June of last year. So I just walk out. I'm like, hey man, just letting you know, like you really have to have a mask on if you're shopping in here with us. And his response was, back off, dude, back up. And I'm like, whoa, man, like, you know, no need to get aggressive, you know. He's just like, back up. And what did he say? Stop addressing me. Oh. And I'm like, well, I am going to tell you like what's up in the store, because this is our store. So like, you need to put on a mask to shop, or I can shop for you and you can chill outside, or you can leave. He's like, I'm fucking leaving. back up, buddy. And I'm like, okay, dude. Like, all right. I don't think this is worth any violence today, but here we are.
Yeah, that's dark. That's I like the words that people use in conflicts like that,
Yes.
where it's like some sort of like possible legal term.
Yes.
It's like, this sounds more official.
Exactly. Like, yeah, like the stop addressing me thing was like, I'm like, what? Like, what kind of dynamic do you think we have going here? Like, you know, like you're in a small business, you know, like I'm just telling you like what we're doing in here. Like, I have every right to address you, sir. Oh, no. Oh, he said stop engaging too. Stop engaging.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay, like I don't think either of us are like law enforcement or military here. Like, you know, I have every right to engage you, and you have every right to engage me. But yeah,
it's a very official
terms. Yeah, the terms he was using, I was like, what is this guy? Like ex-military or just like a fucking Facebook warrior? Like, what's going on here?
I wonder if he was prepared if he was like, all right, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to have a conflict, or if it was just, you know,
yeah, I've definitely
wrong time and he was mad about something else or what.
No, I've definitely had the people who like it. They like the confrontation seems very premeditated, and it's funny too when like, you know, what I'm saying when it's actually happening is like completely against what they thought was going to happen. You know, like I'm just like, I really don't care like what you think about any of this. Like, this is a family owned small business. Like, this isn't fucking McDonald's. Like, you can't go to corporate. Like, I'm telling you what's happening here, and you can either work with us and respect that or get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenging position to be in for the last.
Yeah, it's been stressful, but like at this point, like it's just like it's nothing to me. It's almost like laughable when like someone tries to like say something that they heard in a YouTube video to you in real life, and you're just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, dude. Like, you just have to wear a mask in here to shop for 5 minutes. Like, you know, I you know, like if you think I'm infringing on your rights as an American, like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, buddy. Like, go drive 2 minutes away and buy your fucking PBR somewhere else.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I own a gym, and you know, we've had some challenges, but it's different because pretty much everyone there, you know, feels like they're part of a community.
Sure.
So whether or not their opinions, you know, align with everyone else's or align with the rules or whatever, they're at least like, okay, I'm going to this place where I know people and I have some investment. So I'm at least kind of willing to, you know, like just play by the rules, where it's like, maybe I don't like the workout of the day. Maybe I don't like the way that the class is set up. Maybe I don't like something, but it's like, well, I go here and this is just the way we do it. So, you know, that changes things compared to someone just kind of coming in. Like,
yeah.
No investment, just ready to fight.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And like, it's great because we, you know, like we're pretty much in a neighborhood and have regulars. And so a lot of the time, like we don't even have to say stuff to people because our customers will, you know, like yeah. I've had customers, like I hadn't even had to say anything. And I've had customers being like threatening to kick someone's ass, you know, like I'm like, yes. Okay. Like, our commitment to our customers is paying off now because they are protecting our store.
Although we've had some similar situations, and we've been like, yo, just like tell a coach or a staff person, like, your conflict resolution skills are not up to par. Like, we can handle this problem much better than you can. We don't need you guys fighting about
We have thought about this. Like, please don't let your adrenaline take over and like, you know, kick another customer's ass.
Yeah, totally. So it was the stop engaging me. Is that the worst experience you had with all that?
That might be. Yeah, like there was nothing actual physical. Definitely heard like some super ignorant, fucked up takes. There was one guy that was like, I fucking hate these masks. I feel like we're living over there. And I was like, over where? And he's like, I feel like we're in China right now. And I was like, well, that's the most ignorant shit I've heard today. And like, it was funny because he was in a line of customers, and I think the first thing he said was just like, "Oh, I'm so tired of these masks." Kind of like to this girl who was standing behind him, and she kind of like didn't say anything, but just kind of nodded, like, "Oh yeah, me too," you know. And then when he got up and said that shit, she kind of like shook her head and like stepped back, like, "No, no, 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 I don't think that," like I don't know anyone. Well, I might know some people, but I imagine most people are tired of wearing masks and like don't enjoy wearing them and think they're uncomfortable, but understand that like that's just something that like we have to do to try to like keep shit down. But yeah, he was like, oh, "I'm so tired of these," and she was like, "Yeah," and then he was like, "I feel like we're in fucking China." She was like, "No, dude, no, 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 like, no, we are not on the same page at all. I just don't like wearing a mask all the time."
Yeah. Well, and also she, it's like, okay, regardless of what you think of the Communist Party of China, which like, pretty reasonable to have some bad opinions
Absolutely.
about that. China actually seems to have, controlled things
Yeah,
pretty well.
yeah.
And people
It's like
don't really have to wear
it's
masks.
like yeah, a lot of countries in Asia and like Southeast Asia, like they wear masks when they're sick because that's a smart thing to do, and like that's why like their flu numbers and other diseases like viruses and sicknesses like that have always been lower than like ours over here. But yeah, no, that the stop engaging dude was definitely like the most volatile person that I've had people who I'm like, "Hey, you have to wear a mask inside if you're shopping with us, or I can shop for you." And they're like, "Well, do you want me to leave?" And I'm like, "I don't want you to leave.
No, I want you to put
but
a
I'm
mask
just
on.
telling you the protocol here. It's just like if you walk into a store without shoes and socks on, it's like, hey man, you really have to have shoes on to shop in here. Well, do you want me to leave? Like, no, I want you to put on shoes, you fucking maniac. Like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
we could
it's
probably do a whole podcast interview of just stories from our store. Honestly,
I mean, that actually sounds
goofy
cool.
shit
Like, I'm sure
happens
there's
there.
plenty of wild stories
Yeah,
pre-COVID,
yeah, oh
during
yeah,
COVID. There will be wild stories post-COVID.
absolutely.
I imagine the creatures that come through a store, like some percentage of them,
Oh yeah,
it's just like, all right,
oh yeah.
what's going on here?
For every 100 people you encounter, it's just science that one of them will be an absolute enigma.
Yeah, up to some form of no good.
Yes, yes. Whether they know it or not. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, you're like, okay, what level of
Yeah,
self-awareness?
it's like, dude, are you aware that what you're doing right now is totally inappropriate and ridiculous and not okay to do in here?
Sometimes the answer is
Yeah.
no.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not aware.
More often
That's why
than
I'm doing
not.
it.
More often than not. And that's why it's easier to like look back and laugh on it, because you're like, this dude didn't even realize that he like couldn't smoke a cigar in the store, Like he didn't he thought he was on vacation.
Yeah. He's like, no, man, this is what I'm doing. And I'm also going to the store.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why there's a conflict between these two things that I'm doing. I'm ready to do them both. Why won't you allow me?
I thought this was America, bro.
Yeah. Dude, that's so good. Well, yeah, man, when does the record actually come out?
So it comes out this Friday, the 21st. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Very
Great.
stoked.
What if people want to buy the record, what's the best way for them to do that?
I think going to either the Relapse store or our Bandcamp are the easiest and best ways to get the record right now. I know there were like some rarer variants, as Relapse likes to do, that are gone at this point. But yeah, Relapse directly or through our Bandcamp. And then after it drops, I obviously encourage people to go to like local record stores or smaller distros to pick it up as well.
Oh yeah. What about if people want to keep up with potential tour announcements or other things that might be happening? What's the best way for them to do that?
Just, unfortunately, social media is the best way to go. The band Instagram or Facebook. think Relapse will probably have most of our touring plans up there as well.
What's the which social media do you prefer?
Well,
And what's the actual
I
tag?
I have seen that people are responding more to Instagram shit. It seems like you know, Facebook owns Instagram, so this doesn't really make sense to me. But people seem to be steering away from Facebook. Like obviously, older people and more international people seem to engage more on Facebook, but I think Instagram is the way to go now. Maybe the band will make a TikTok soon, step into that universe just for shits and giggles.
Might as well.
Why not?
Some weird lurching rhythms on TikTok. Yeah. Those are good things to dance to, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like the perfect, like, okay, what's the most awkward movement I can do right now? And
yeah, I would love to see a TikTok challenge or dance meld with some Yautja shit.
I think that's a good idea also. Yeah, you got to do the playthrough video and you got to do the TikTok challenge. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, the best thing to do would be to send it to one of your friends who also likes podcasts. If you want more, I have an email list where I send out a weekly update with all the podcasts I've recorded and articles that I've written. I also include my favorite things that I've been reading or listening to as well. You can sign up for that at www.toddneef.com. That's I before E. Or you can open up the show notes in your podcast player and click the link in there.